real estate agents. On page 75, you'll see a point of reference as well. www.har.com slash or just www.har.com is a great place for you to start identifying realtors. Zillow is another place. And then Rosalia shares a link tree at the end. We have a QR code with different resources as well for you to check out. So you guys have a solid understanding of the real estate and what you need to do to start shopping with a realtor, understanding that you will have to go under a buyer agreement and asking them what that buyer agreement looks like and for how long is really important. Housing counselors can provide not referrals, I'm sorry, a list of uh recommended partners, and then you can select your top 3 or your top 1 and just call them and ask them some questions. We provide guided questions as well so that you can have a guided conversation and kind of just high level make sure that this relationship, this transactional relationship, right, is one that benefits your conversation style, your workflow. If you need more like information up front, or if you're like, hey, you handle it and let me know what I need to know, you can interview your realtors. Emphasizing that you have rights as a loan consumer. There are prohibited practices in sale or rentals of housing. One cannot refuse to rent, sell, or negotiate on any of these protected characteristics. Disability, race, sex, color, national origin, religion, and family status are the main 7. One that is not featured here also includes a discrimination against public services. So you cannot be discriminated if you are receiving public services. Okay. Setting different terms, conditions, or privileges because you are receiving public services, for example, saying, oh, well, we will only rent to you if, you know, you throw in a Nintendo 5. I don't even know if a Nintendo 5 is a thing, but y'all get me. Um, you can't just discriminate like that. Okay. You can't make renting different. You have to have certain policies and practices in place. And then you cannot produce discriminatory marketing. So if I'm, an apartment complex, I can't say, oh, well, I'm a short lady, y'all. You'll see when you meet me, but I'm a short lady. And so an apartment complex can't just advertise tall people only. Okay. Or if I go and ask, "Hey, what's your unit availability?" They're like, "You're not tall enough. We don't have any units available." But in reality, they have like 5, So definitely, in addition to that, falsely representing the availability of a dwelling is prohibited. So if you suspect that your rights as a loan consumer are being violated or that you are being discriminated against, housing counselors can support you in filing um, a discrimination report. Okay, HCAD. I want you guys to take this website. I'm typing it in the chat, but go ahead and pop open that link, hcad.org. Let me see, www.hcad.org. This is a property search. So what I want you to do is, for those of you that are pre-approved and looking at houses and maybe already have an address in mind, take that address, first of all, go to the website, click on property search, and then type in the address. If anybody does it, let me know so I can use your awesome example. But this is the Harris County Appraisal District website. It has real property account information. It will tell you who the owner of the property is. Right here, we're looking at Avenue Community Development Corporation, and we're looking at the tax year of 2022. We're seeing here the most important things: legal description, property address, state class code, land use code, building class, a lot of womp womps, right? But the important parts to keep in mind is if I am going to apply for down payment assistance programs for Harris County, is the property paying taxes to Harris County? Okay. Harris County asks for unincorporated properties. So do you see how this property is also paying taxes to City of Houston? So this property under the Harris County Appraisal District shows that it's paying to Harris County and City of Houston. And for that specific down payment assistance program, this property would not be eligible because it has to be in an unincorporated area that is not City of Houston. So that's one way to check your property address and see who the taxing entities are. This property is paying taxes to Houston ISD, Harris County, Harris County Flood Control, Board of Houston Authority, Harris County Hospital District, Harris County Education Department, Houston Community College, City of Houston, and Hardy near Northside Zone 2, Greater Northside Management District. All of these are taxing entities, right? And so when you purchase a home, um, and you're thinking about wants and needs, think through who you're paying your taxes to and understand that buying a new home means that you're in a developing community. A developing community means that it's in the process of growing. And when it's growing, access to hospitals, schools, colleges, universities increases. So that means higher taxes. Okay. Cheryl explained it beautifully. Do y'all remember what she said about the taxes? Just keep in mind that they do increase, right? And that you can dispute them. You can protest your taxes once you live in the property and you do it for the next tax year. So this is where we talk about homestead exemptions also. And we file a homestead exemption if this is our primary residence. A homestead exemption is transferable and it's only transferable to your primary residence. You cannot have two or three homestead exemptions. So before I got married, my husband and I wanted to buy a house, right? And the idea I had was, well, I can buy a house with my mom. My family can, like benefit from that. And then he can buy a house for us and we'll have two different separate homestead exemptions. I was wrong, y'all. One property tax exemption under my name, right? So I only get one primary residence, not two. So anything that I'm associated to that has my name on it, one property tax exemption. If you are 65 years old, you qualify for a 65 plus exemption. If you're a vet, you qualify for an exemption. If you are disabled, you qualify for an exemption. Can you layer those exemptions? Yes. Will your taxes be reduced at all of those exemptions? Yes. And if you guys are looking at the Q&A, I've dropped a link in there to explain Texas first-time property owner exemptions and property tax exemptions. So you guys can also grab that link from the Q&A as well. Ms. Roberta shared, my big sister is a homeowner and she inspires me a lot. I look up to her and I want to own my own home one day. Thank you for sharing that. We love that you have family support and people to look up to. You're on the right track. And I'm sure she's like cheering for you along the way. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're all supporting you now too. All right, so I do want to try a house, but I'll come back to it in just a second. I do have an address to check out, but that's essentially what that property tax exemption is. Stephanie says, I see that the address you have up has Harris County and City of Houston. How do you know which down payment assistance program you're able to use? It will depend on your particular property, but like for example, if you came to me and you said I want to buy this house and I want City of Houston money, then we would check City of Houston regulations because we already know that it doesn't qualify for Harris County since it's incorporated into City of Houston. So then we want to see, does City of Houston have any regulations or rules that prevent me from buying this house if it's paying taxes to Harris County? And what if City of Houston says, we just want you to be paying taxes to City of Houston? Well, then that property would not be eligible for down payment assistance for that program, but we can keep looking because chances are, it could qualify under a different census tract. Okay. But it just depends on the property that you're purchasing and the program that you're qualified for. So there's a bank that gave a borrower a pre-approval, and the pre-approval came with a very specific program that, again, 100% financing, $5,000 grant if the property that they purchased was in one of those census tracts. So she had already found a property, and that property didn't end up working out because it didn't fit in those maps. So yes, she can totally buy it, just not under that program. Okay. So we just have to keep shopping. Residential purchase contract is identifying both the seller and buyer involved. This is what it means to be under contract. So you will have page 78 there. And then this is going to tell you what your sales price is, how much earnest money you're paying. So keep in mind that your earnest money can be refundable if you decide to walk away. Okay. So keep in mind that Cheryl's presentation really covered, like, before you get to the table and before you get the keys to the house and pay for everything, make sure you do a final walkthrough. So similar, like, you don't actually own the house until you sit down and pay for everything and sign everything, right? So you can walk away at any moment. Just understand that it will require some money and you may lose part of what you've invested through the transaction. Okay. So let's see. Oops. I think I zoomed out too much. Y'all, we are covering a lot of content, and I'm going to get to the juicy stuff. Okay. Does anybody have any specific questions about the purchase contracts? Another thing I want to share here is that your purchase contract will tell you if the property is an HOA. You want to know, if you are purchasing a new property, new build, is there going to be an HOA setup fee? This is in addition to your annual fee. This is literally a cost to set up the HOA that the builder is charging you for. So that's important to know. And then the termination option, like I said, you do have the option to terminate the contract without losing the earnest money. All right. This is where all of the signatures of all relevant parties are. And until you have a contract that's signed by all parties, that's when you're under contract. Okay. Not before. If the seller hasn't signed off on this, it is not under contract. And then on page 82, you have the seller's disclosure. This is the form I was telling y'all. It says, this notice is a disclosure of seller's knowledge of the condition of the property as of the date signed by seller. I'm going to read this out loud. It is not a substitute for any inspections or warranties the purchaser may wish to obtain. It is not a warranty of any kind by seller or seller's agent. So here we see this form has, this property has the items checked below, right? Yes, no, or unknown. So this is where you see, okay, I'm getting this much house, right? I'm getting a range, a dishwasher, a washer dryer hookup, security system, oven, trash compactor, rain gutters, walls, windows, fences. So all of these things will be checked off if they apply. On this page, the question I'm going to zoom into is, are you, seller, aware of any of the following conditions? So my example this morning was, if I'm an investor and I just bought the property 90 days ago, renovated it, and I'm putting it on the market, That means I don't know if the property for sure has had previous flooding in the last 5 years, right? I'm not sure. I can't guarantee that it hasn't been. All I know is I've owned it for 90 days. So all of these things, active termites, termite or wood rot damage, was it in this class? I can't remember. If the house, I think, no, one of my clients asked, what if the house appraises higher than what um the home is being sold for? That's a question mark, right? Because if my home is appraising at $400,000, but I'm selling it to you at 250, hmm, what am I selling? Right? What am I selling? What is under the foundation? What is in the walls? So you certainly would go in and do an inspection to identify if there are any areas that are like major repairs that are underlying there. Okay, so that's why even with a new purchase of a new build, we recommend that you do an inspection. So remember what I said earlier, it's just if you don't get this source of funding, that's okay. Let's keep looking for what shoe fits you. We're building on the Cinderella story. Can you tell I like princesses and cats? I like cats too. Miss P said new builds and old builds are within the same price range nowadays. Would you suggest going for a new build? That is really an important decision that you will need to make depending on the loans that are available. For example, when we'll look at Harris County, you'll see the difference of like for a new build, we will, work with loan amounts up to, and then it'll be different for a pre-existing. So they'll show you there's pros and cons to everything that you will have to measure and decide for your household what is the best choice. Okay? So let's see. Like for example, age of the home, I would add one quick nugget here. When we were shopping, one big factor that assisted, us in shopping is I knew enough about construction that I wanted a home built before 1978, right? Sturdier wood, et cetera, et cetera. So it really just takes a lot of research into what you're wanting to purchase and what that investment will be for the next 30 years. Because we knew we were buying a fixer upper. We had a specific set of ideas that we wanted to go in to renovate. So we didn't mind like doing a bunch of fixer upper things, but it really just depends on your household and what you um, decide is best for you guys. So, why is the inspection done? These are all of the components, right, of the house. And when you're looking at your ebook, it's page 84 and 86. This is what an inspector does. They look at everything. Do your do your um do your faucets turn on? Is there water coming out? What kind of water is coming out? Do your toilets flush? Right? What is your fence? Do you have a fence? Driveways, walkways, what do they look like? We know that when we bought the house, like our driveway is going to have to be repaired. So that's a project that we're saving for. I think we're just going to do like gravel and just pull the cement up because it's all cracked. And we're looking at like gravel is a little bit more budget friendly for us in terms of like having a whole truck and pour cement out to make a new driveway. But we're in the process of checking with our HOA. Okay. So they look at everything, and sometimes homes have crawl spaces. So unless you're gonna get in the crawl space yourself, we highly continue to encourage getting an inspector to do all of this for you. And then you have an inspection report that you get at the end. It's like several pages, like 50 plus pages of pictures, findings, recommendations from the inspector. So you're not just paying for somebody to go out and looky like how Cheryl said, like be a looky loo. They're actually putting a report together for you that you're buying. Okay. So this is an out-of-pocket expense because as soon as you pay them the money, they go out and inspect it and then they give you a report. So Miss Stephanie asked me, when you were buying your fixer upper, did you have to inform the mortgage loan officer that is what you were looking for? No, I had to let my realtor know. The lender just wants to know what property I'm purchasing and how much is it worth. So, my realtor, I let them know we were looking for um, a two-story house that was 30 minutes from Conroe. At the time, I was working in Conroe, and I wanted to be kind of like smack in the middle of Conroe and downtown Houston. So we went with Spring, and so like, my realtor is who I provided the details to, and I said, "We don't mind having to do some repairs, but we certainly don't wanna spend too much money on the mechanical parts." Like, we wanted a house. This is when you talk about needs, right? We needed a new, roof. We wanted to buy a house with a new roof. And why did we need to buy a house with a new roof? Because we knew that if we bought a house with a 10-year-old roof, in 10 years, it's going to cost us money to replace it or repair it versus 20 years. Now we have 20 years to save towards buying a home, a roof. We knew we wanted to have a new HVAC system, and also, or upgraded, I would say, and also to have electric stove. So that's what I wanted. Well, I needed. Everything else I could negotiate.
I have a question.
Sure.
If you're gonna get an inspection, but what if the people still live in their home?
Hmm. That's a realtor uh process also. Keep in
Oh,
mind that they're selling the property, so they have, also a realtor that's representing the process and walking them through the sale of the property. So they're expecting people to come in, right?
okay, yeah.
So they'll absolutely understand, like, hey, I'm under, and especially because you're under contract at this point. So they're holding on to your earnest money, not the seller, but it's in title. So that's why earnest, remember I told y'all I'm a word gal. Earnest is that serious commitment to the seller that you're coming in with an inspector. Um, or that you have the option to come in with an inspector for an inspection report. And that's why it's really important to understand that you have an option fee period, guys. That option fee period is what allows you to come in with an inspector. If you close your eyes during the whole process, guess what? You lose the right to an inspection. And so now you have your earnest money tied up, your option fee period is gone and over. And so now you have to decide if you walk away or not.
I don't remember exact. Well, I have a question about the inspection. You said when you purchased your home that uh it was some moisture or something in there. Is that a part of the inspection or something that we would specifically have to ask them to check?
When you're interviewing your inspectors, you're, like, asking, "What kind of tests do you do?"
Okay.
So, if you want, you wanna cover your bases and say, "Well, do you do a moisture test to find moisture in the walls?" We live in Texas, there's a lot of humidity. A moisture test is usually standard, but not always. And so part of what the video says, like, ask them what kind of, let me see, ask them what kind of, where is this? What kind of specialized testing they do. These are specialized tests. Uh, humidity, moisture tests are not exactly specialized, but they should, be a question to just make sure there's no surprises later on. So it's part of interviewing your inspector before you pay them. You guys go to work every day, you earn your money, you bring your take home pay. And so these are all investments, right? Before you pay somebody, just know that you can ask them what kind of services you're about to receive. And then, it could be easy to say, well, I'm paying them to do it, so I don't know why I have to go with them. But if you feel like that's important to you to be there through the inspection, absolutely talk to them and say, hey, Will you schedule this inspection with me so I can walk the property and ask questions along the way? Right? So this is definitely your report, and you can go along with the inspector so that you can have an understanding. Hey, did you check here? Keep in mind also to be reasonable because there's like the cosmetic things. Like they're not looking at there's a dent here or there's a nail hole here. They're looking at the envelope of the house, the mechanical systems, and the overall components of what makes the home safe, stable, and will help you determine if it's a worthy purchase for your family. Home warranties. So these warranties, so say for instance you're buying a home and it comes with like a washer and dryer and they're like, "We are going to leave the washer and dryer here for you because we just bought him, we just don't like him anymore. We're going to get all black appliances in our new home." Cool. They leave you their semi-used appliances. You want to ask about their warranty, right? Or will you have to register them under your name now? We had to find out the hard way that the even though the HVAC was replaced before we purchased, we never registered it. So we were no longer eligible for like a free service tune-ups, or we were no longer eligible for them to just come out and check it out. It didn't break, but there's a condenser pan for your AC, and it should be monitored and maintained. And in our case, it had built up a lot of all is it algae? And so, the line has to be cleaned out periodically, and it had gotten clogged. So, we found out that hard way that, we had not done our due diligence to sign up for warranty or any of the, registrations that we needed to have, like, service free for 2 years. So, womp womp. There's also, plumbing systems, water heaters, electrical systems. Because we bought an older home, we knew that the electrical was older, but we did not plan on the entire house being out of code, and so now we're having to decide, like, do we just what do we do? We're up against a challenge, y'all, so, um, we have the option to, like, work with an electrician who can bring, the main, like he's recommending, like, a new, breaker box, right? He's like, "First, let's start with the breaker box, make sure everything is wired correctly, and then, to avoid the major projects." Do y'all know, or did y'all know? Because I didn't know. When you have an undertaking like, an electrical repair project, you have to pay for the entire wiring to be improved and upgraded, right? Which means that you have to knock down walls. So not only are you upgrading your wiring, but you also have to knock down walls so that they can access the wiring, and you have to pay to replace them. So I'm just like, look, we're gonna have to come back to this. We're gonna table this for now, but we're definitely having conversations about like what does the whole total look like. We're getting different bids. And two different people have come out and they've given us completely different numbers, and we're just like, no. So it also helps. One thing I did learn is to have itemized. So, for example, if I'm looking at just replacing my breaker box, I'm only quoting my breaker box. So that way I have 3 different quotes that give me the same type of item being quoted, and not like having an electrical person come in and telling me like 5 different things, and then another person comes in, they're like actually 3 different things. So, it does help to have an itemized list of what you're quoting when you're working on that. So, I digress. This home warranty really will help you avoid expensive home repairs. That's what I want you to remember. There's different levels of protection and pricing. On page 91 and 93, this is a sample of a title commitment, a summary of the involved parties, their duties, and information about the property. And once all of you are a little closer to that side of the process, we can review the title commitment together. Okay. A lot of the questions also can be answered directly from your title insurance company. This is what the sample of the land survey looks like on page 95 of your ebook. You've heard us talk about it and describe it, but this is a visual of what the lot looks like. This is the little lot, property lines, easements, this little gap in here, and these are utilities. So this is where like random people can pop up in your backyard wearing vests and hard hats, aka center points. There are public easements that have public utilities. So that sidewalk you think is on your property is a public easement. Okay. Whole question 9. Which document shows you the down payment assistance amount that you were approved for? I feel like the questions are getting harder. There's actually 2 documents that you can pick. Which document shows you the down payment assistance amount you were approved for?
The loan estimate?
That's one. 2 documents that show you the down payment assistance that you were approved for, if any. And if any here means if you are actually being are you in the process of submitting any down payment assistance and you've been approved for it, then it would show on your loan estimate and your closing disclosure. Loan estimate is just that. It's the accumulation of the estimated fees that you can pay, and then your closing disclosure is the final of what you will be bringing in closing costs. That will show your down payment fees and if there are any fees, or if it's just grants, it'll show the grant on the fees under the summary of deposits. Poll question number 10, back to back. The certificate of completion for a homebuyer's education class guarantees that a homebuyer is eligible for down payment assistance funds. The certificate of completion for a homebuyer education class does not guarantee that you are eligible. Remember that every single pocket of money will have its own criteria, and you have to fit within that criteria in order to be considered eligible. So it is false. The certificate of completion will be a great accomplishment, and it'll show that you have now received homebuyer education. And this class is open to anybody that's purchasing a home. There's no requirement for you to be a first-time home buyer. It is open to anybody that just wants to learn what the process is to purchase a property. And the added benefit to completing this certificate of completion is that it is part of your application, not guarantee. Not It's not a guarantee that you're going to get the money. It is only part of the application that you're going to submit to determine if you are eligible for the money. Avenue does not provide any financial assistance for the purchase of your property. We are here to guide the conversation and point you towards resources that you are eligible for based on your DISC. So now, what does it look like to protect your asset? Now that you're buying a home, you're a homeowner. We're gonna put you in the homeowner's shoes. What you have to consider is now you are responsible for creating your emergency plan, which will include emergency numbers. Baker Ripley is putting together a disaster preparedness workshop coming up. And it's giving you a lot of free resources, like a grab bag and a checklist of what to prepare in a disaster. Fire safety inspections are important. Does your home have smoke detectors? What about a first aid kit? Do I have anybody that works in healthcare here? Raise your hand if you work in healthcare. Okay, I got 2 people. First aid kit is very real. Sometimes people will visit you and they may fall. What if, they need medical assistance? I mean, you have to just have a plan. Even if it's not something that requires medical assistance, do you have band-aids handy? Right? Also, like something that will be covered under your insurance is personal liability. So if somebody falls in your home, personal liability will ensure that their medical coverage or some of their medical bills are covered. Carbon monoxide detectors are also recommended. Cutting shrubs near windows and entries, making sure doors and windows are locked. And then whether or not you add exterior lighting to increase the safety surrounding your property. And one exciting thing that you're going to do when you buy your house is post about it. What sometimes we don't realize is that our address is like right here, our street number is right here. So it doesn't take a lot to look up somebody, you know, online. So just be careful. Get to know your neighbors. During Hurricane Harvey, we had been living there for 1 month and all of our fence fell. The entire back line fell. The sideline fell. The only thing that was standing was like one side. It was so sad. But we really got to know our neighbors, and they shared their generator with us. I mean, we were fumbling a little bit, and we're better prepared now. Knowing how long your house will last is important. When we do post-purchase counseling, remember I said a lot of info already, but as a reminder, Avenue does do post-purchase counseling. So after you buy your home, we will help you put together a home maintenance checklist. And that's on page 11. So we have about 20 minutes for before the end of class, and I really want to get into um, the fun part, which is going to be the down payment assistance programs and our match funds for credit, and also our homeowner pre-purchase counseling interest form. So we will bookmark this home maintenance checklist. When you buy a home, we will do post-purchase counseling and we will assist you with this. We also have mortgage delinquency foreclosure intervention, as I mentioned. So, home retention is what it's called. Are you going to do a repayment plan? Is there forbearance that you're eligible for? Can you qualify for a loan modification? And then, if you have an FHA, you have to see if you can submit a partial claim. When it gets to a point where there has to be a foreclosure sale, you have to understand your options. And so through foreclosure intervention counseling, we'll walk you through what your options are. And so we get a lot of appointments booked for foreclosure intervention. And Diane is busy, busy, busy. She has a heart of gold and has been a counselor for more than 15 years. So just in 6 months, 5.2 million, y'all. Okay. So we do it at no cost and we assess all of the options. All right. Grand guide. Understanding the types of assistance. I'm going to tell you about them, but I'm also going to show you. We're going to look right now at the websites for state, city, county, but we're also going to review real quick what some of the lender bank incentive programs look like. You can use this money to cover some or all of the required down payments. Sometimes it can help you with closing costs. Other times you might be able to use it to buy down points to lower your interest rates. I remember I told you about the rebate certificate. Um, we are able to use the rebate certificate to every year that you file taxes, you're going to have to file your interest that you paid on your loan as a homeowner, and you get a rebate back to help lower your debt to income ratio. All programs are different. So I'm going to repeat this again. All programs are different. There's no guarantee on any program. You still have to qualify for a mortgage loan to obtain assistance funds. So you apply for a mortgage and then you apply for down payment assistance. Remember, I talked to you about my client that got lost in the wave of information and didn't really understand who she was getting her grants from. It's really important that you know where the money is coming from so that you understand the rules that accompany that and the regulations. Area median income can determine whether you qualify for a program or not. Sometimes families earn over the median income. Sometimes families learn that there needs to be an increase of income before they're eligible to apply for a mortgage loan. In either case, that's what pre-purchase counseling is here to explain and to provide guidance on. So these are the area median income is when you take every single person that is employed and you're like, this middle person is what we're going to use as the median. And they're saying one person median income at 80% is 56,650. At 120%, that's 84,950. These all are percentages that don't really mean anything right now until we get through the steps of home buying and identify a property, right? After being pre-approved. There's something called Community Reinvestment Act. So if you're wondering, why is the bank going to give me money to buy my home? Because of the Community Reinvestment Act. It requires um, not all lenders, right? But it is a special lending program that provides borrowers the opportunity of getting access to lender incentives and credits. So you do have to qualify based on your income. And see how I said earlier the census tract? Or if you don't qualify on income, you have to purchase a property in a qualified targeted census tract. What is a qualified targeted census tract? A qualified census tract is an area in which 70% or more of the families have income that is 80% or less of the statewide median family income. Keep in mind that we just saw that 80%. So it's not a small number. A lot of the times we hear low income, median income, and we're like, oh my gosh, that's, not a good neighborhood. That is definitely prejudice. And when you're looking at these numbers, 80% for one person is 56,650. So measure your income against that. For two people, they're saying the household income is 64,750. For five people, the 80% income is 87,400, y'all. Low income, median income is not associated in any way with communities that are in bad shape. This is the QR code to access all of our resources. So take a second to just screenshot that because you can scan it later on with your camera. And then I'm going to stop sharing right now. I want to leave at least 5 minutes for the last bits. So there's a final poll, counseling, MFC, and next steps. So please keep in mind that we don't spend a whole lot of time on accessing different grants because all of you are going to qualify for very different products. Okay, so we do that in counseling. So I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to share my other screen. Okay, so I had the homestead exemption and then in this property, HCAD, this is where you do property search. We're going to give it a moment to think and we're going to come back to it. This is T-Shack, which gives you an eligibility quiz. It is a quiz. It is not an application. And so this is what it tells you. T-Shack provides a 30-year fixed mortgage with down payment assistance, grant, and second liens. You have to work with a participating lender. So just because you like T-Shack doesn't mean that the lender you've got in your pre-approval form is actually a participating lender. They have to undergo certain training and certifications to be T-Shack certified. So this is the one I was telling y'all for Texas Heroes. This down payment help is available for professions that qualify: public school teachers, corrections officers, EMS personnel, firefighters, veterans, active military, police officers, school librarians, school counselors, and school nurses. So this is one of the down payment assistance programs. If you don't identify with one of these occupations, that's okay because guess what? There's a second program that T-Shack offers, and they're like, wait, before you go further, the first step to see if you qualify is to take our eligibility quiz. It takes only a few minutes and you don't need special paperwork. The quiz will let you know if you meet the program requirements and the types of assistance you qualify for. In bolded letters, y'all. To qualify, you must have a credit score of 620 and meet certain income requirements. So even if you don't qualify for the down payment assistance grants, you could ask your lender about adding in the mortgage credit certificate. They have programs for there's even a video. MCC benefits. Reduce your federal income tax liability every year. Save thousands of dollars over the life of your mortgage loan, exclusively for first-time home buyers. No minimum credit score, and can be used with T-Shack down payment assistance. It's free for teachers, firefighters, EMS personnel, and all hometown heroes. Okay? Y'all with me? Drop in some emojis to let me know you're alive. Okay. Let's look at Harris County. Thank you guys for entertaining me. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much, Miss Lamontagne. You're so sweet. Okay, down payment assistance for Harris County. All right, y'all. This is what I'm talking about. Your home buyer certificate that Rosalia is going to send you on sometime Monday before 4 p.m. is literally part of your application for down payment assistance. It is not a guarantee for down payment. Okay. So if you read here, right here, applicant eligibility criteria, successful completion of a homeownership education course from a HUD approved course provider. Check this out. They're asking for a minimum of $1,000. So if you want to use this pot of money, you have to have at least $1,000 saved. This bank particularly says make your new home a reality by qualifying for 96.5% financing or 100% financing for VA or USDA, and then up to $7,500 in qualifying closing costs through the Prosperity Bank Homebuyer Grant Program. So the financing, closing cost grant eligibility, here's where they walk you through all of these. Okay. So please understand that it is truly a Cinderella story. We have to just find what loan works for you, what products are available that are going to increase your savings and decrease your debts. So really, that's the main idea. And then what's one more bank we could look at? Let's look at IBC down payment assistance.
Oh,
So this one says flexible down payment and ability to finance, competitive interest rates they'll offer. So basically, just take this activity and just drop in some Google searches on your end, see what you find. And so that way, when we start to do our pre purchase counseling, we already have at least three that we can start with. And if not, we'll start with the one that you bring. Okay. So that's pretty much my spiel on down payment assistance grants available. They are not specific to county, city, or state. They are available through Community Reinvestment Act lenders that are practicing the Community Reinvestment Act and have grants and credits available for you all. So, Miss Roberta, this information will be for you, but everybody else, you should know that Harris County has an education department, and they have a CNA program on top of um, several other trainings. So even though Avenue itself is not a workforce organization or provides job placement and things like that, these programs are available for you through the Harris County Education Department. You can also find trainings through CERT Jobs, United Way has case navigators, client navigators as well. This particularly is the one I mentioned to you. All right, y'all. Have a great weekend. Thank you again for having a shared Saturday with me, and I appreciate all of your awesome participation. I look forward to meeting you soon in
thank you.
counseling.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye
Bye bye.
bye.